All right. While more people are joining, I'll make a really brief kind of reintroduction and reminder of the format of our Twitter Spaces, our weekly Twitter Spaces. Basically, we every week we talk to different companies in crypto space and DeFi and NFT companies, and we talk about their project, how they're hiring, how do they grow themselves, whom they're hiring as well. And we usually give about 40 minutes or so. We try not to go over time, to talk to like the main guest. And then at the end, we'll, usually give 20, 30 minutes of time for Q&A. So if you guys have questions, you better have questions, write them down and save them for for the end. And you'll be able to ask our guests, in this case, James from Alpaca Finance. James, are you with us?
Yep. Can you hear me?
Awesome. Yeah, your sound is great. You're sounding great.
Great.
How are you doing today, sir?
Yeah, good. Yourself?
Yeah, doing well. Making sure that everything is stable today, and we're getting more people to dial in. Awesome. I think we got quite a few. I think we have how many right now? 21. Awesome. I think it's a good start.
Sure.
Cool. So yeah, we have James with us, who's the head of BD and as far as I understand, talent as well at Alpaca Finance. Sir, can you introduce yourself and Alpaca Finance as well to everyone here?
Yeah, of course. Hi, Ron. Thanks for having me. So, as you said, I'm head of business development at Alpaca Finance. And so, for those who don't know what we do, we're basically with the largest lending protocol that allows leverage yield farming on Binance Smart Chain, right? So, basically, we help lenders sort of earn sort of safe and stable APYs, and we offer under collateralized loans for leverage yield farming positions. So, been going for about 6 months.
Awesome. 6 months, that means you guys started in...
Actually, it's about 8 or 9 months now. Time flies.
Yeah, it's crazy. Cool. Okay, it's interesting on BSC. I think a lot of projects these days are moving to other chains with less gas, which is a matter of life, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, for sure, that was like the predominant reason as to why we chose BSC originally. I mean, obviously, since we set up, there have been other chains that have kind of come in and started adopting a similar sort of mechanism around sort of lower gas, et cetera, and they've been getting some success. So Solana, Avalanche, et cetera. But sort of BSC was kind of the first one to really start adopting DeFi protocols.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So as far as I understand, you were not really kind of from day zero with the team, but you joined a little bit later in. How did that happen?
Yeah. So the guys, I think they started at around sort of the start of the year, basically around February, March time. And I joined a couple of months later. So I was working as a director of business development for the Tezos blockchain before this, which was super interesting. Like it was interesting to kind of build out the infrastructure for a blockchain. But I kind of wanted to move things to the app layer because you can kind of get more done in smaller amounts of time. And I got in contact. Actually, I think it was actually via Crypto Jobs List, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, really? Okay. Yeah. Awesome. I didn't know that.
Yeah. Actually, thinking about it, I'm pretty sure it was.
Okay. Didn't expect that coming. That's good news. That's good news. Okay, so like at the time where you were, I mean, like I think it's interesting point to understand is like you've already been in crypto for quite some time. I think I just want to ask you like when you were at what point did you move from like traditional industry into crypto? How was that transition for everyone who's listening here who kind of not yet working in crypto full time and just want to join the space?
Yeah, sure. So I would say it's a lot easier now than it was when I sort of made the move over. So I was in traditional finance. I was in sort of equity derivatives trading and equity derivative sales for almost 10 years. And during sort of my last few years of working in the finance space, one of my clients actually was starting to mine Bitcoin in the office, right? So this was back in like 2012, 2013, I guess. And so he started speaking to me about Bitcoin. Then I did a little bit of research, and then got involved with Ethereum during the ICO phase. At this point, I was still working in traditional finance, but it was kind of starting to take more and more of my time. And so I actually set up a company in the crypto space, which was honestly at that time one of the only real ways to get into the industry. Like, it wasn't like hiring massively back in 2015. So I set up a company which worked as a consultancy, and it also it did sort of OTC brokerage trades. And I was working, because I had experience in derivatives, I was looking to sort of build a derivatives platform in the crypto space. And so those were my sort of early steps. What I would say is now it's a completely different environment for people who are in sort of finance or law or anything else to get into crypto. I think that there are a lot more avenues to do so. I mean, such as Crypto Jobs List and other methods. And, people are a lot more knowledgeable now. There's a lot more information out there. And so, I always urge people to take the plunge. I think that what we've shown over the last sort of 3 to 4 years is that crypto isn't like a passing fad. There's a lot of stuff being built, and some of the smartest minds out there are coming into the industry at the moment.
Yeah, I think a few years ago, people were still not sure whether you can build a career out of it. There was way more doubt around it. And I think right now it's definitely, I think it's a solid career path with huge growth opportunities. Probably people will say a completely different thing in a few months in a bear market, but I think right now, everything's rosy.
Well, I think that's what was interesting, right? Is that the previous bear markets, basically I wouldn't say we fell into a bear market this year at all, but even when the market sort of moved down for a period of time, even though people were pessimistic from a sort of trading perspective, like building was still going on and hiring was still going on. I joined Alpaca basically during a massive downturn, right? So it's I think that basically protocols are looking at sort of the long term now, and I think that that's a good way to kind of look at which project to join. Is, were they building during periods of downturn? Were they communicating still with their communities? Because I think that demonstrates that, is my job still going to be around in a sort of 6 to 12 to 18 month downturn? I think those are sort of important questions to answer, and you can kind of look at what projects have done during these sort of like bear markets to sort of see which ones are worth applying to.
Definitely. I myself always been recommending people to and kind of preaching that bear market is the best time to hire, but it's also the best time to find a job as well, because all the noise is no longer there. It's mainly action. The people who apply for those positions are the ones who are here for the long term and not didn't learn about crypto yesterday, so to say.
Yeah, 100%. I agree.
Cool. So like when you were joining, as far as I know, you were like one of the first, I guess, 5 people in the company. And what's the team size right now? And how fast have you guys grown in terms of headcount?
Yeah, so obviously our dev team is pretty large. Like, we have a lot of different devs. All of our dev team is anonymous. But we have, more than sort of 10, 15 people at any one time working on the array of products that we have coming to market. In terms of the commercial side of the team, so we have a head of strategy, we have myself, head of business development, we have a head of institutional growth who's looking at the institutional product that we're looking to launch. And then we have a whole business development team, which is sort of like regional business development managers. And we have 7 of those at the moment. So yeah, I mean, I guess we have sort of 10 people on the commercial team. We have quite a lot of part-time sort of helpers, mods, etc. for community management. And then we have like a very significant dev team.
Amazing. You guys are actually larger than what I anticipated. Cool. Are you guys like all remote, or are you guys more like consolidated around a certain location?
Fully remote. So I myself am sort of between London and Lisbon. Our head of institutional growth is in Canada. The rest of the team are kind of scattered around Asia, sort of US time zones. So yeah, we're scattered everywhere.
Cool. How's do you find it's more challenging to do communication across all these time zones compared to your previous roles that you held in other companies?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to lie. There are definitely challenges around remote work, but I think that if you set your kind of expectations out, and there's a sort of coherent message, and kind of a system whereby people can demonstrate what they're doing, then we've made it work for us. It involves, a couple of sort of CRMs and very good communication through sort of messaging and stuff. But, it is possible. It just takes a bit of time to hone.
Can you mention any like specific maybe tricks and tricks and tips and tricks that you've like incorporated successfully?
Yeah, I mean, like a CRM was a big thing for us, right? Because we have so many partnerships with different sort of projects on BSC and other places that we have 8 different people that are speaking to these projects at any one time, and so we have to make sure that there's a functioning CRM that is being updated like multiple times per day, right? Otherwise, this kind of stuff doesn't function. You end up doubling up and having multiple people approaching the same projects. And I think even on the product side, it helps to communicate what's going on the product side in terms of timeline, in terms of roadmap, etc., with the rest of the team when you have a functioning CRM. That way you don't need to have a phone call for everything, which is, I think, somewhere where a lot of companies make a mistake, is that they feel as though a Zoom call or a Meets call like has to happen for every single subject, and that isn't the case, and it's kind of a waste of time most of the time. I would say if you have a functioning CRM that multiple people are managing, then it's probably the most efficient way to go.
Awesome. Do you mind sharing what's your favorite CRM so far? There's so many on the market.
Yeah, so we use HubSpot and we use Pipedrive. But there are loads of them that do sort of similar jobs. I mean, some are more marketing, some are more sales. For us, we found a good, we find Pipedrive and HubSpot together kind of works best.
Interesting. I think it's actually very, very interesting to hear that a crypto company, a DeFi company is so reliant on the CRM. I think a lot of people would expect a sales organization to be reliant on the CRM and working with it heavily, but it kind of does make sense for partnerships to manage all these partners.
Yeah, for sure. And I think a lot of it is partner management, but I think it's also communication, right? Again, it's that kind of thing of, as the team expands, you can't keep track of what's going on. I mean, I have maybe, over 1,000 Telegram messages going on, right? So it's like,
yes.
Yeah, it's like however much sort of creation of folders and stuff that you have, like at some point it just gets overwhelming and you need there to be something else out there, so that if you need to find something that somebody else in the team has done quickly, then you can just go straight into the Pipedrive or HubSpot and sort of see where they are with that. But of course, that there's the challenge whereby people have to make sure that it's updated continuously, right? So
takes a bit of a discipline.
Yeah, 100%, and it takes time, but we've got there.
Cool. Do you guys do any like weekly calls or like weekly structured sync ups between everyone in the team or
For
everyone in the
sure.
organization?
Yeah, so we have different types of calls. So we have sort of the senior team does regular calls, the BD team. So I manage the sort of the regional BD managers, and so we have regular calls, individual one-on-one, and also as a team. Um, I think that it's important that you do have a time whereby questions can be answered, and sort of, you have a solid hour where people can ask anything that they want. But then, I think that you kind of want to limit it to sort of these high profile calls, because otherwise, as I said, I've been in organizations where remote work has been tedious because it's just been individual Zoom calls from 7 a.m. till 10 p.m.
And then nothing really gets done.
Exactly.
Everyone's stuck
Just
in
talking
meetings.
about doing things.
Cool. How do you like? I mean, it sounds like you guys have already quite a bit of structure, which is great. Do you have quite a few processes set up around hiring?
Yeah. So, a big part of that is my job. On the dev side, it isn't. Obviously, the dev team kind of does that in house. But when it comes to the commercial side of the business, we definitely are looking to expand, and so it's kind of, I'd say hiring in crypto has become a lot easier, but it's also, how should I put this? In a lot of other industries, you don't have people applying who don't have the required skill set, right? So if you're looking for an economist, right, you're not going to get some guy who has never done anything in economics applying for it, right? Whereas in crypto, there is a danger of, people thinking because they've done a little bit of trading on the side for a week that they can take a high profile crypto job. And a lot of the time that isn't the case, right? So there are challenges around sort of filtering. But I think that we're very early, and so it's there's a long way to go. And I think that the companies such as Crypto Jobs Listed are doing. I find that it's easier to hire from a place like Crypto Jobs List than it is somewhere like LinkedIn, right? You tend to get a more informed type of candidate than you do from some of the broader the broader websites.
Yeah, 100%. Trying our best here. Do you have any like specific process or like questions, your favorite questions that you tend to ask to kind of understand the level of a candidate?
Yeah, I mean, when we want to highlight, for example, I recently hired a couple of regional BDs, and I think that first of all, you want to see that they have been engaged in crypto themselves, right? I think conceptually, crypto is one of these things that you need to have walked the walk before you really understand how a lot of these protocols function. So one of the first things I ask people generally is to kind of walk me through, how Aave works, how Compound works, how the sort of key primitives around DeFi work. Because if they haven't gone to the trouble of actually using these primitives, then that tends to demonstrate that they're not going to have that they probably aren't as interested as what they're making out, and B, that they aren't actually. It's going to be difficult for them to adjust to a role at a DeFi protocol, right? So you have a lot of people who have traded cryptocurrencies since 2017, 2016, but have never actually engaged with a DeFi protocol ever, right? And I would much rather have someone who's been in crypto for 3 months, but has like gone on a complete deep dive and understands how these protocols function than someone who's been in crypto for 4 years, but just sort of trading and investing. So I asked a lot of questions around sort of the practicalities of sort of lending protocols in particular.
Cool. And do you ask these questions for pretty much any position in a company, or specifically for like BD and kind of more financy positions?
I would say if you're joining a DeFi protocol such as ours, whatever your position, even if it's in marketing, that you should, like, even just from a perspective of demonstrating interest in DeFi, you should have at least had some experience there. So I think that the questions are kind of relevant, are relevant for any job. Now, that doesn't mean that I'm expecting people to be able to like code in front of me, right? Because a lot of that stuff is just irrelevant. I can't code myself, but I want to see that there is a deep level of interest in sort of what's going on in the DeFi landscape, right? Because that harks back to something that I truly believe, which is that, you know, people who are interested in what they do are going to do a way better job.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 100%. Do you look at any other like signs or proxy signs that they're competent? I don't know, like maybe blog posts or some other kind of more tangible signs of their engagement in crypto, if they are, for example, not able to express it like verbally.
Yeah, I mean, like there are certain things that are, you know, like if they show me that they've been, I don't know, putting up interesting Twitter content or Reddit content or blog posts and things like that, then that's always going to, you know, if they put that on their CV and I take a look at it and it seems like it's informed and it seems like it's coming from a place of interest, then I'm sure that's 100% going to help. You know, I'm not asking them to be like incredibly articulate around, you know, it's difficult, right? If someone asks you even some of the base questions like, you know, what is Bitcoin? What is a store of value? What is Ethereum? What is layer one? What is layer two? Like they're difficult to articulate, right? Which is why I think it's easier to explain through the process of actually using certain protocols, right? Because then I find that you're able to articulate it via the techniques that you used rather than from sort of just concepts that you've read.
Fair. Do you have you? I mean, like you've looked at a bunch of resumes so far, and you're pretty active on Twitter. Have you developed any like pet peeves about what people do, like what people should not say or write on their resume?
Well, yeah, I mean, I have one major one, but I think that this is probably across the board for every single industry, which is that people who, in their cover letter or message or however they want to structure it, who just write a couple of lines, like that's never, I mean, that will never, ever cross most people's desks, right? I mean, we get hundreds of applicants, and I kind of want to see, especially in like a CV is relatively important, but in crypto, probably less so than in traditional markets. The cover letter in particular allows us to kind of see, you know, why is this man or woman interested in cryptocurrency? What have they done? Like, what are they interested in particular? What protocols have they been researching? What are their thought processes around crypto? Where do they think the crypto market is going? Like, all of these kinds of things are things that they should be putting in their cover letter, right? Because it's got to be your pitch as to why someone should be interviewing you, right? And most of the time, a CV isn't going to demonstrate anything because it's going to be completely outside of the crypto markets, or at least, you know, maybe they'll have had 1 year's experience in crypto, but that's usually a max. So the cover letter is where you can really demonstrate your thoughts and your knowledge and your interest.
100%. Yeah, I've heard the founder of Dune Analytics complaining about someone putting on their resume or on their application, crypto is the future, something like that, something very populistic.
So it happens all the time. All the time.
Yeah.
Crypto is the future.
Please hire me.
I believe in decentralization. like I think that crypto is going to save the world, all this kind of stuff. But it's like, okay, that's great, but you got to explain to me why you think that, and it needs to be coming from a place of actual research and interest, as opposed to just a soundbite.
Yeah, I think a lot of people who are joining this space, I think there are like so many misconceptions. Like I think a lot of people think that you only need to be technical, which is 100% not true. There are a lot of like non-technical positions, and I think another thing that people think is that everyone's going to get hired just because it's so early. But I think in certain ways, certain parts of crypto is very mature. A lot of mature companies that look for very sophisticated talent and populistic things is like hodl and Bitcoin is the future, or crypto is the future, or Web3, whatever, is no longer sufficient to be accepted on board.
Yeah, for sure. And like again, like as you said, first of all, you don't need to be like highly technical. You just need to have shown interest. And so, I always say that people who have sat there for 2 or 3 months reading some of the research reports, whether it be the Block, Masari, Delphi, all of these type of places, and who have actually used these protocols, most of the time are going to have a really, really good chance of getting a job, because like they're going to have formed actual opinions that come from an informed place, as opposed to sort of like when moon kind of like let me just buy the whatever token is doing the rounds on Twitter at the moment. And like even though it is a new industry and it is slightly different to the traditional markets, like you should be approaching it in the same way, which is if you're going to apply for an investment management job, you've probably done some research on companies that you like and investments that you like, and have a thesis behind sort of your investment theory. It's the same for crypto.
So in addition to kind of questions that help you understand whether the person has the right skills, do you interview for like culture fit, specifically for Alpaca Finance? Is there some traits that make your candidate a true alpaca?
Yeah, I mean, I don't do like I guess like a cultural interview as such, but you on the first screen, you're gonna know whether they're gonna be a cultural fit or not, just from sort of the way that they answer specific questions, right? That's not to say that there is a strict culture that we're looking for. We have people from like around the world, like all working on the same team that come from different cultures, that have different temperaments, that have different ways of working. But there are certain sort of non-negotiables, and like that's seeing whether they have a strong work ethic, strong interest, etc., etc. I think those things are more important than sort of cultural questions. Although, of course, like if the person is like very, very confrontational or something like that, then that's probably not going to work, right? But aside from that, we're pretty open to different backgrounds.
Cool. Do you guys have like a probation period or like some period to evaluate whether it's a fit or not?
Yeah, I mean, it depends on the job. So the way it works with our regional BDs, we tend to at first bring them on part-time, because like we need to the proof is kind of in the pudding with them. It's we see whether they can resonate with their communities, whether they can do a good job, whether they are working hard, and we generally move them to full-time pretty quickly if they show that they're doing a good job. When it comes to sort of the other roles, we have a probationary period, generally sort of 1 to 2 months. But crypto's kind of probationary period doesn't really mean a great deal, right? Because most people who work in crypto, if a crypto company wanted to get rid of them, they could get rid of them with a probation period or without a probationary period. It's remote. Most of the time, it's like anonymous. So, it's kind of more just for contractual reasons than anything else. But I don't think it makes a difference.
I see. Yeah, I feel kind of in my experience, kind of hiring and looking at other companies, I found that having certain probation period helps kind of maybe set expectations, or I don't know. I think it's something about it that creates additional kind of psychology and expectations that certain things needs to be performed within that period of time. I don't know. That's my take.
Yeah, I mean, so we work with sort of targets. So I always, with the people that work in the BD team, I'm always, I try and give sort of targets, milestones, etc. Make sure that we're on track. We have individual calls, one-on-one calls, so that there's always a sort of layer of communication that's telling them, what we expect of them, whether they're doing well, whether they're, we need improvement somewhere. Communication has to be the way forward when it comes to that. I don't necessarily think that changing things in the contract is going to help that much. Like, one thing I would say about Alpaca in particular is I think that we're probably the most meritocratic organization in the whole space. Like, you know exactly what you're going to earn as a BD professional at the end of sort of a 2-week period or a 4-week period, depending on what you've done during that period, right? So it's very trackable, it's very measurable, and it's entirely meritocratic.
Cool. Do you have like a specific person in your organization who comes up with all the KPIs and kind of the salary compensation structure?
So that would be, I mean, that's myself, our head of strategy, and our head of product that kind of, we check in with each other sort of every month or so when it comes to setting these KPIs, because they may change over time according to sort of products that we've introduced or anything like that. We try and give as many potential routes for our BDs to make money as possible. And so, we ensure that there's always a very transparent, meritocratic process.
Interesting. That's actually quite impressive. I think a lot of, probably majority of companies in crypto or companies in DeFi specifically, they're probably not as organized, not as structured as you guys, at least compared to those that I've spoken to so far. Interesting. Is there like a specific, do you pay out like a commission or percentage of BD deals that you close, or if you can disclose that?
Yeah,
not,
so
we can.
sorry.
Yeah.
I mean, I won't go into specific details, but yeah, we have different partnerships that we conclude. Any type of sort of outward communication that gets more eyes on Alpaca. All of these individual things, like, I don't know, it could be like an exchange listing. It could be, we have a couple of really sort of powerful partnership schemes. So we do grazing ranges and we add leverage to people's farms on PancakeSwap, and all of these different things are ways for our BD professionals to make bonuses, right? And so they know exactly what they're going to get at the end of the month. And I always say, like, as someone who comes from market finance, that was something that was really important to me. It's why I entered the industry, because I had a lot of friends that were in arenas where they would get sort of discretionary bonuses, and no one really knows what a discretionary bonus involves. It's just how your boss is feeling on the day where they have to set bonuses out, which isn't what I'm interested in. So we definitely wanted to model it a little more after sort of what it is in market finance.
Awesome. Interesting. Slightly different question. And I think a lot of companies so far had a mixed response to it. So you did mention that you have quite a few anons on the team. So I did typically ask if, like, are you as an organization, are you guys comfortable hiring anons? And apparently you guys did. What is that experience like? And have you been hiring like any anonymous contributors lately?
So We actually haven't hired any that. So our team is actually mostly anonymous if you include the development team. So the whole development team is anonymous. Our head of strategy and our head of product are anonymous. Now we don't like it hasn't caused any difficulties in terms of communication, and so I don't think that we would be against hiring anonymous people in different areas. What I would say is in areas such as business development, it's a little bit harder, right? Because a lot of the time you need to get your face out there. You need to be doing comms work, media work, going to conferences, etc., etc. So for a BD role, like anonymous is probably not the way to go. But in other sort of areas, especially the sort of the techier areas, I would say that anonymous poses no problems at all.
Awesome. Interesting points. What would you say are like the most like lacking skills right now that are kind of absent in the space and that you guys yourself are looking for?
Yeah, so it sort of harks back a little bit to what I was saying before. It seems there is just a sort of a lack of people that have actual genuine experience in engaging with cryptocurrency protocols, which is stunning when you think about it, right? If people are applying to a job and they haven't actually used many of these things before. But that is the case, right? People think that BD in crypto, for example, is the same as BD in, I don't know, whatever, insurance sales or something. But it's not. It's very different. And it's not just a case of selling a piece of software or selling something else. It's entirely different, and you need to have ongoing conversations with very smart people from different protocols who are going to expect you to have a sort of a wealth of knowledge of sort of key cryptocurrency primitives and protocols, right? And so what I would say is that is something that really, really, like I just tell people, like, don't just apply just because there's a job out there and you're kind of a little bit unsatisfied in your job. Just take 3 to 6 months to do some deep research, deep reading, like go and use these protocols, and then apply afterwards. And your percentage chance of getting the job will go from 0 to like 50, 60, 70%. So I think that's the key thing.
Mm-hmm. Have you guys considered like, or maybe have you done in the past where you hired someone a bit more junior who has potential, but like maybe not there yet, and kind of handheld them a little bit to the scale, to the like the level that you expected the person to perform at, or is that a bit of a too risky thing to do?
No, I would say that most of for example, the regional BDs that have come in not knowing like a really deep amount about sort of leverage yield farming and stuff, and so it's involved. Like we have I said, whenever a new business development person comes in, I will spend a lot of time with them demonstrating exactly what we do. We have regular sessions where sort of junior members of staff can ask technical questions to myself, to the product team, to our head of strategy. And we do that so that people can get up to scratch relatively quickly, right? With me, I'm not expecting people to have like a complete developed understanding of all the different strategies that can be used on Alpaca, for example. It's just a demonstration of interest in the DeFi space as a whole that we're looking for, and you'd be surprised how many people apply without having that.
Mm-hmm. And outside of BD, are there any other roles that you guys kind of desperately trying to fill right now?
Yeah, I mean, we're looking at people potentially in marketing. So at the moment, one of the our head of strategy is also our head of marketing at the moment. Now he's a very smart guy and he's able to sort of put both caps on at once. But we are looking to separate the two roles, and his key role is as head of strategy, right? So we are potentially looking to bring someone in on the marketing side. That we're still sort of going backwards and forwards on that at the moment. In terms of BD, we're looking for a global BD manager at the moment. So that's someone who will sit just basically below me and who will be helping create value for the organization as a whole. It would involve sort of dealing with a lot of the inbounds that we get, partnership work, some media work, some conference work, communications stuff, maybe a little bit of management of some of the regional BDs as well. So that I would say that that's our most pressing hire at the moment. We have interviewed a few candidates. We haven't found exactly what we're looking for at the moment, but that is something that we're actively hiring for.
Cool. And when it comes to marketing, do you feel you guys are going to be looking for like a CMO level person right away, or someone maybe mid or kind of more junior?
Yeah, that's kind of what we're debating at the moment. We don't know whether to sort of promote someone from within to take that role, and then sort of bring someone on at a junior level, or whether we want to actually hire for the full sort of head of marketing role. That's something that we'll probably have settled by next week at some point.
Cool. So you guys already, I assume you already have like a kind of a solid community manager and copywriters, content writers, technical documentation.
Yeah, I mean, we have most of that sorted. We are looking, again, back on the BD side, we are also looking for regional BDs potentially that are China focused and that are sort of Hispanic focused, so Spanish speakers. That's something that, again, we'll probably be posting relatively soon. As I said, our first port of call is for that global BD manager role. It's something that we've been looking to hire for a while. But yeah, the marketing and the regional BDs are another thing. And then potentially, like on the community side, like we always want people, but that's sort of like a lot of the time it's more of an organic process. It's people that come into our Discord and that help people in the Discord, and we see that they're doing a good job sort of helping people, and so we bring them on. This is something else that I would say to people is, if you get involved with a specific community, like a lot of the time they'll end up hiring you. Like most of these communities have so much work on that they're not able sometimes to serve their communities as well as they would have liked. And if they see somebody in the Discord chat helping out, then you have a great chance of getting a job with them, right? It shows initiative. It shows that you're working hard. It shows that you understand the protocol. I would say that that's like a really, really good way to get in, sort of, especially at the junior level.
Awesome, 100%. Yeah, I think from my end, I think I asked most of the questions that I was like planning to ask. Is there anything that you feel I should have asked that I haven't asked before we open up the floor to everyone else to ask questions?
No, I don't think so. I think we covered most of the sort of the hiring practices and kind of the things that I think are key, particularly in this industry. So yeah, I'm happy to answer any questions that people may have.
Awesome. All right. Everyone. Please raise your hand if you have a question. So make sure you have a question. All right. We have one request. There we go. Good day, sir. How are you doing? Triggered Indian. I think you're on.
Okay. Hi. Thank you so much for such an informative session. I wanted to ask you that every community has its own working style and environment, and has its own way of having fun. And I also get asked this quite a lot. How does it feel to work in a blockchain company? So, how would you say, what does it feel like to work in your community, sir?
Yeah, good question. So, as someone who has worked in probably the most traditional industry in the world, which is like working on a market floor where you have 100 people working around you at a desk, and then suddenly, you know, I'm entirely remote, working with people from around the world. You know, I I agree that each sort of company has its own way of doing things. One thing I would say is that there was sort of an adjustment period where I had to make sure that my management skills and my organizational skills were up to scratch, right? And it's something that when you work remotely and when you work at a company which is creating products at like such an insanely fast pace, you can kind of get a little bit lost at the start. And I think especially at Alpaca, we have some of the most like understanding senior team that I've ever known. Really, like that they at the start will help you. You can ask any question. I mean, genuinely, any question is that they want you to ask all the dumbest questions you possibly can right at the start, so that you're able to feel confident, sort of moving forwards. And I think that's part of the ethos that I'm trying to perpetuate. And I try and help our junior staff as much as possible. And I think that in a remote atmosphere, you have to have that kind of environment, because otherwise, if people are scared to ask questions and they're remote, so they can't even ask people, sort of in secret in the office somewhere, like that's just a cause for trouble. So I think that being very accommodating with your time is one of the most important things, and I think that we have that environment at Alpaca.
Wow, that is great to hear. And just one last question, sir. So, as I was talking to many people around, I found out that most of these people, they have insane amounts of Photoshop skills or memes, and as I heard that you were looking to expand your BDs into China, are you also looking to expand it into India? Because right now we have quite a lot of surplus in for people, so they may be useful for your marketing team, if you know. So yeah, that was just my question. And thank you so much, sir, for this opportunity.
Thanks for your questions. Yeah, so we actually did have someone who was helping us on the Indian side for a while. That would have been about sort of 4 or 5 months ago, I guess. Then obviously, the Indian market got a little bit difficult, what with some of sort of the government stance towards cryptocurrencies, and we were having a little bit of difficulty with sort of the communications campaigns that we wanted to put out there. But it does seem like that there is like a real concerted effort by sort of the Indian population to be a big part of this cryptocurrency revolution. So it is something that we're always looking at, and I would always encourage candidates from any country to apply. We mentioned China and Hispanic, but that's not the only type of people that we're looking to hire, right? Like those are just sort of two pressing needs that we have right now, but we're open to many different nationalities.
Okay, thank you so much, sir. It's a pleasure talking to you, GM, in your jobs hunt for candidates. Thank you, sir.
Thanks, man, for the questions as well. You've been super active in on Crypto Jobs as well, and following and retweeting all our content, which is amazing. Thanks, man, for the questions. I think it was a good question, by the way, James. Who's the best Photoshopper at Alpaca? Who's responsible for all the memes?
Yeah, I mean, so we have a lot of our sort of Discord community guys are very good at that. We have a guy called Brian who helps us, but we also, we have different mods in different groups who can produce some pretty good stuff. I mean, I think that we also have some of the best artwork out there, and like some of the Alpaca artwork that some of the guys produce is pretty cool. It's pretty special.
Yeah, Alpaca is super cute. All right, we have a question from Vignesh.
Yeah, hey James. So, you said that like you have like anons and you have like people from a lot of different countries. So, and you also did say that you use CRM extensively. So, other than CRM, like how do you guys usually get in sync and get stuff done?
Yeah, so we obviously it's always a challenge, right? So we use the same tools that most people do. So obviously Telegram, we have I don't even know how many folders that I have up, but we try and collaborate on those things so that everyone has kind of the same folder set up, and it's easy for us to it's difficult for us to miss when someone is contacting us. We try and keep regular group calls. We try and do individual calls either when it's required or on a sort of weekly basis. Different people require different levels of communication, right? So we try and play it by ear most of the time. Like some people prefer to they have a list of stuff that they want to get on with. They understand entirely what it is that they want to do, and they just crack on with it. And we touch base once every week, and we communicate via Telegram. Others, require sort of more constant communication, and we're at a size still where that is possible. The reason that the CRM is so important is because we think that we are going to grow pretty considerably over time. I mean, we have some huge products coming up. We just recently did our NFT sale that's going to be leading to a play to earn game. We have a whole institutional side of the business that we're building out. We've just built finalizing our own stable coin. Like there's a lot of different products that are coming out. And so we envisage the team growing quite a lot. And so the CRM is basically to make sure that when teams kind of expand a little and we can't have the sort of more constant communication that we do now, that at least, we have sort of backup tools. But yeah, I mean, it's always a challenge as soon as you're remote or you have sort of significant anonymous members of staff.
Oh, okay. I had one more question and I totally forgot. Okay.
No worries.
Do you guys use any tools like Trello or Asana or anything like that as well for other parts of the team?
We use Trello for a little bit. We have a Trello, but it's not something that we actively require at the moment, but it is there for in case we need to start adopting it.
Cool.
And yeah, I remember my question now. So are you guys exploring any other chains? Is it something you guys are interested in, or are you guys like completely committed to the one chain you're on right now?
Yeah, so we have 100%. Like part of my job as head of BD is to have these conversations, and every chain out there that has the required infrastructure we have spoken to. So all the people that you would expect: Avalanche, Solana, Ethereum, Phantom. We've spoken to all of these guys. We've spoken to Polygon. it has to make sense for us because we have a deflationary token, right? So we require certain infrastructure to be in place because we leverage the rewards of the dexes. So, for example, on BSC, we leverage the cake rewards on PancakeSwap, right? And so there are cake rewards that are on every single pair, and we add leverage to those. Now, that's easy for us to do on PancakeSwap, whereas on Solana, for example, it's not so easy, right? So Serum isn't a real DEX; it has an order book. Radium is a DEX, but it doesn't offer ray rewards on all its pairs. So, you know, there are certain difficulties, like from an infrastructure perspective there. When it comes to other sort of EVM compatible chains, like Polygon and Avalanche, like we've spoken to them at the moment, that the sort of incentivization deals don't make a great deal of sense, and we want to avoid being one of those projects that just expands to 3 different chains just to get sort of a boost in their token price, because most of them end up not getting any volume at all on the chains that they expand to, right? And that's because it didn't actually make fundamental sense for them, and it's a big consumption of time to do a cross-chain migration, and at the moment it doesn't make sense for us, and we'd rather use that time building our products. But it is something that we're open to. Even now, you know, I'm having conversations with all of the layer 2s that have come to market, you know, and it's something that I'm making sure that I'm up to date with all the time, and if there is a solution that makes sense for us, we will be all over it.
Cool, awesome. Shall we move on to the next people? Next questions. I think the next up is Umair and then Shibhad. Umair, should you have a question?
Yeah, sure. So yeah, you explained sort of the importance of having a fundamental understanding of, you know, different DeFi protocols, and then being able to showcase that understanding with your like genuine user experience with them. So yeah, thank you for clarifying that. I think that's important. But I just wanted to ask if there's anything from maybe traditional finance or economics that you also value for interviewees, or anything else along those lines, if I could. Thanks.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, as someone who comes from the traditional finance space and, you know, who did their degree in economics, like I think that having sort of a solid, especially a macroeconomic background, is something that does make sense, and it's something that, you know, I would definitely see as a positive. I think also when you're looking at the DeFi space, having a general understanding of sort of lending and borrowing and how that actually functions in the real world is important. And so people, again, with an economics background or a financial background tend to be more up to date with that kind of thing. Now, I don't think that it's a necessity. I mean, like, for example, one of our regional BDs comes from the fashion industry, right? So it's you know, like a lot of it is just, are you someone that is going to really work hard? You know, are you someone who's very, very interested in the industry? And if you are, then a lot of the time you have a good chance, right? I think that it is a benefit if you have those sort of macroeconomic backgrounds, but it's not a necessity.
Cool. Thanks for the question and thanks for the answer. All right. Next up, Sheephad.
Hey, how you doing? Basically, my question is, in a space that moves so fast and you don't necessarily need a lot of years under your belt to get these senior positions, what would you be looking for when hiring internally or externally for someone who wants to sort of make the step up and get the senior positions?
Thanks for the question. Yeah, so for those who have broken through, crypto is definitely better than the traditional industry, sort of traditional finance, when it comes to sort of like moving upwards. Like there tends to be less of a cap on what you can achieve than there is in if you work for Goldman Sachs or McKinsey or somewhere like that. But it obviously depends on the protocol, right? Like I think that certain protocols can maybe, if they see that you're doing a fantastic job as a community moderator, for example, they want you to stay there because it saves them having to do it, and it saves them having to train someone else. And so, I think that maybe certain places might put a cap on talent moving up because of that. And I think if that's the case, if it's just the culture of the company that you're in, then it might be it might be an option to try and move elsewhere. There's a lot of crypto companies right now that are looking for people that have sort of 6 months to a year of crypto experience in particular. And so sort of moving to another company is, definitely one option. That doesn't mean just jump out. You should probably have a conversation with your supervisor, whoever that may be, or even, like if you see that they are hiring for a more senior position, then, put your name in the hat for it. Speak to the supervisor. If they just bat you down straight away without a reason, then it's probably the culture of the company as opposed to anything else, and you probably want to move elsewhere.
Awesome. Thanks for your time.
Thanks for the question. Any more questions, guys? We have quite a few people here, so we have 39 right now. Questions, ladies and gentlemen.
Don't be scared, guys.
You might as well get hired. worst thing that can happen.
Exactly. We hold these Twitter spaces as well at Alpaca, sort of once every couple of weeks, where we sort of go through the market events and stuff, and it's always it's interesting. You tend to get a bunch of questions, then it stops for a while, and then a bunch of questions again.
There we go. A business, as predicted. A business. Connecting. Hello, sir. How are you doing?
Hi, good. Thank you. So I have a quick question. I just kind of hopped on. It's Thanksgiving. Thank you for taking the time. I've been trying to break into the space, have 15 years in finance on the business development side, earned a few certificates in blockchain and crypto through UC Berkeley online and some other places. I just wanted to see, and I'm sorry, I apologize. I joined kind of late. If this question has been answered, but anything else I could do to sort of further my chances of breaking into this space, given that I had the background in finance, super interested in this. This has become a passion of mine now. Any guidance would be just greatly appreciated in order to break into this space.
Sure. So it's a good question, and it's something that I think a lot of people. It's a scenario that a lot of people are in at the moment. It's as someone who hires people like on a daily basis, it's very difficult for you guys to understand how to separate yourselves from the hundreds of other people that are applying, that are also from sort of backgrounds that aren't crypto, but who haven't got the passion that you have, right? And so I think the fact that you've done a few of these sort of certificates, it does demonstrate that there is at least some effort to try and certify your credentials in blockchain in some way. I think that that's something that is a good thing that you've done. I think that a second thing would be, as I mentioned sort of earlier on, would be on the cover letter, like really try and demonstrate, tell the company what it is that you've done, like in terms of in the crypto sphere, try and try and speak about as many individual protocols as you possibly can. Tell them what you've done on Aave, what you've done on Compound, what you've done on Curve. Like demonstrate a critical understanding of all the key primitives, of sort of the infrastructure required. Give your opinion as to what you think are going to be themes that are going to play out over the next sort of 6 months. If it's okay, I think that layer 2 on Ethereum is going to sweep everything up. Say why you think that is. Talk about specific projects on layer 2 and why you prefer ZK Sync over Optimism, for example, right? And like all of this kind of stuff will demonstrate that you have like a really deep passion for the industry, and that you're not just a guy who's come in the last 6 months because your mates have been making a bunch of money, buying Shiba, and you suddenly just want to be in the industry. You need to kind of separate yourself from people like that, and it involves a lot of research, and you need to communicate that as much as possible in the cover letter.
That's great advice, James. Thanks for taking the time to answer that. I appreciate it, and I will definitely do that going forward. So I really appreciate your response. Thanks a lot.
My pleasure. Happy Thanksgiving.
Good question.
You as well.
That was an awesome question, man. All right. Who else do I have here? Questions. We still have around, let's say, 10, 20 minutes, 30 minutes. How are you feeling, James?
Yeah,
do you
that's
still have
fine.
energy?
I've got sort of 10, 15 minutes. That's cool.
Okay. All right. One more person is joining us right now. T Norm. Crypto immigrant. All right. It's taking a while to connect.
No worries.
Yeah, there's this weird thing where like when you like let someone become a speaker, like it drops out and then you connect back. I don't know. Like,
Right. Maybe we reached the limit of number of speakers. Maybe I need to demote someone. Sorry, guys. Let me try doing that. Let's try once again. No one requested. Maybe that was the reason. Sorry, guys. I had to drop a few speakers from here. All right.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yep.
Awesome. Sorry about that. Headphones were bugging out. Thanks so much, James, for answering that question before. I'm kind of in a similar stage. I've been lucky enough to interview with a number of protocols and companies, but just haven't been able to break through after a handful of interviews. And I'm just wondering, it clearly need to demonstrate, some more passion and try and build a content base. My background's in marketing, but I'm wondering if there's a preferred, format for that. If it's building up your Twitter profile, or if it's writing blog posts, or kind of what style of content would you really investing in to kind of build out that and of understanding the space and being passionate about it.
Well, I mean, what's interesting there is that so you've actually managed to get the interviews. Like, why do you think the interviews themselves? Why do you think you didn't sort of break through that barrier? Did they give you any feedback?
Yeah. Honestly, I think it's like a seniority thing. I'm 4 years out of college. Not a lot of people are hiring at kind of the entry level for the marketing right now. So I've been applying more to manager positions. So it may just be, a experienced misfit, but trying to overcompensate for that in whatever way I can and really demonstrate on that. I guess if you have any advice there would be helpful too.
Yeah, I mean, like it seems that you're doing the right thing if you're getting interviews. Yeah, I mean, sort of, it's one of these difficult kind of scenarios. Like, are you too junior? Are you too senior? I mean, what I would say is that crypto, at least at Alpaca, we don't look at seniority. We look at sort of the person for sort of who they are and the drive and the intensity that they've demonstrated, as as I've explained, via cover letter, and then when I speak to them. I mean, a lot of it is feel based, right? So it's that's very difficult to prepare for, and I always think that it's the best indicator of hiring is once you've seen that they are somebody that has the required background, like they I mean, in your case, marketing, you could definitely give some examples of what you've done at your previous company, and give an understanding of different sort of marketing outreach, etc. But after that, it really is just a case of once you've got the interview, every single person that I've hired, it's been because that I've felt that the blockchain and the crypto is it's become basically like a key part of like their identity, right? So it's not just a passing fad. It's not something that as soon as there's a bit of a downturn that happens, that they're going to be looking for sort of traditional jobs again. It's something that has completely taken over their sort of set of interests, and it's become a fundamental part of who they are, right? And I think that you can see that a lot of the time by sort of the energy that's given in interviews. I mean, I think energy is like a huge thing when it comes to interviews. If you just sit there and you sort of let the questions come in and you sort of give sort of a half-hearted response, you're almost never going to get the job. If you're someone who's like insanely energetic, demonstrating absolutely everything that you can do, maybe giving some ideas. So, for example, you're looking on the marketing side. Let's say you were doing an interview at Alpaca. It's, I would expect you to have looked at our protocol, and to have seen, okay, well, I think that you're doing a good job on this kind of marketing, but you could be doing better there, and this is a type of campaign that like I would want to set up if I came to the marketing team. I've taken the privilege of contacting a few companies to kind of get their pricing for different whatever ads, banners, whatever it may be. And I think that this would be a really good strategy going forward. Stuff like that, stuff that just shows initiative. I think that that's the best way, and I think that if you were able to demonstrate that kind of thing, and that like we could see that there was a lot of initiative and that you had an actual vision for what you were going to do from day one, then I could pretty much guarantee that you would get the job.
Awesome, super helpful. Really appreciate your time, and we'll start giving some more thought to being more aggressive. Appreciate.
Cheers, no worries.
Yeah, I think the keyword should be helpful, and optimistic. I'm not sure if aggressive is the right one, but definitely, just write more content, reach out to companies, be helpful. Awesome question. All right, next up we have Crypto Night.
Hey guys, thank you for hosting this space. Really appreciate everything that you're doing. Sorry, I pretty much just joined, and I'm not sure if you guys answered this question before, but do you guys have any like advice for like TradFi people like myself, like in the development or engineering roles, and how we could make that like transition from like traditional finance or whatever over to crypto? Let's say in my case, like I'm currently working as a reliability engineer, but like I have like a little bit of experience. So
yeah, so
I make up with that experience with like passion for crypto and all of that, like understanding fundamentally these protocols, etc., how they interact and composability, etc. So do you guys have any like advice for like myself or people like myself?
yeah, so I think that the same argument holds. What I would say is on the dev side, on the engineering side, like there's a little more, I would say there's definitely more of a necessity for experience there. And you know, I don't want to speak too much because I don't have development experience myself, but I know that the people that we've hired have either all been experienced sort of in the blockchain space, or that they've demonstrated they've been helping out. Basically, they've been helping out with a little bit of, for example, we have multiple products going on at any one time. Some of them are sort of higher, you know, like we wouldn't want there to be anyone who wasn't part of the main team getting involved with them. But then there are sort of little sort of play areas where we're kind of just playing around with a few ideas. And, you know, if somebody comes in and starts showing a lot of promise with that, then we'll think about hiring them. But on the dev side, on the engineering side, it is a little more tricky to come in. I would say just try and speak to as many people as possible, get into as many sort of communities, Discords, Telegrams as you possibly can. Ask if there's any sort of projects that you can help out with. Yeah, I can't help too much more than that on the dev side, unfortunately.
I think I can comment a little bit. I do engineering on a daily basis, even though I kind of should stop doing that. So I think I can comment a few things. I think it really depends on what exactly in crypto you want to be doing in terms of development, because there are quite a few roles. There is definitely Solidity development, and I think that's what James was primarily commenting on, is that majority of protocols, they would probably not, it's going to be a bit harder to get on the core dev team as a Solidity developer or as a kind of protocol developer, because there are a lot of like security nuances, and companies would always want someone who is experienced and kind of familiar with, you know, security consequences, and have been in kind of EVM development for some time. If you're doing front end, I think that's one of the probably it's in a high demand because of the complexity, and every project out there needs a solid app. And I think fortunately in crypto, every project has a GitHub profile, and you can just go ahead and make a pull request or interact with people there. And if you see something that can be improved in the app that you're using or in a company that you're interested in, just go out to their GitHub profile and try to like fork, not with an intention of like creating a clone of their protocol, but mostly with the intention of understanding it better and kind of learning, getting more experience, finding potential bugs, fixing them, making it PR. And I think that's a very solid way to both level up your experience in the space and get noticed. And I think you will get noticed very fast. I think issuing a pull request is a very noticeable activity that a developer can do. I think a lot of, from what I've heard from companies that that are hiring through us, is that a lot of companies, as a part of the test assignment, they would require a developer to issue a PR, like a pull request to kind of an existing open code base. And quite a lot of developers do not even get to that point because, there are quite a lot of people who just, learned Solidity as their first programming language, and they think that they are going to get a job, which is a little bit, maybe they can get a job in some scammy project that is not very kind of long-term oriented. But I think it's definitely kind of, GitHub is the way to go. And as far as I understand, you're a reliability engineer, right?
Yeah, currently work as a SRE.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I think there are quite a few positions for DevOps, especially with exchanges and especially with companies that run nodes. So I think that probably is like the closest thing to your existing skill set. Yeah, a lot of like try running a node, perhaps. Try running a bridge. Try running some part of crypto infrastructure. Does it make sense?
Yeah, it does. Thank you guys. Appreciate it.
Sure. Thank you for the question. All right, guys. Any more questions? Do we have more developers in the chat room? If anyone wants to ask more questions to James or to me.
Sure. Sorry, James. If there's any resources that you might recommend, I guess it may be relevant to some of the things you suggested and how you should approach DeFi and I guess the crypto space at large.
Yeah, I mean, I think honestly, like when it comes to using the protocols, then being in their Discords and their Telegrams is 100% the best way to go. When it comes to sort of more general knowledge around crypto, I personally think that for general reports like that come out every day, sort of Masari, just get a subscription with them. Like it's not too expensive. Delphi as well, and then sort of the large reports by the block, I think are really good. And I think that those are probably like the highest quality researched sort of pieces that are out there. And I think that you'll get a really good fundamental sort of grounding in most of the important sort of narratives in crypto from doing that. But yeah, in terms of the actual individual protocols themselves, when I first started using all of these things like Curve and Compound and stuff like that, it was literally just asking questions in the Discords. Like it was the best way for me to learn, and I don't think that using sort of like the instructions that are on websites is anywhere near as useful as being part of the community.
All right, thanks again.
I would also add being part of Twitter Spaces. I think it's a really high bandwidth communication channel. You can learn a lot from the good ones because I do think there are quite a lot of good ones, but there are also a lot of kind of spammy where a lot of people talking without any much substance, at least in my experience.
Yeah, I agree 100%.
All right, we have about like 10 more minutes, James, right?
I can go for 5 more. I have a call at
right.
past.
Okay. One last question from Paras. Let's make it quick, and we're going to be wrapping up. Paras, you just joined, or if there is no question within 5, 3. All right, no question.
He just wanted to have speaker under his name. That's what it was.
All right. Anyway, all right. I think let's wrap this up. Thanks so much, James, for coming in. This has been super high quality. I'd say these past few sessions have been really good in terms of the quality of conversation, the quality of questions as well. Yeah, thanks so much for coming in. We're seeing one more question, but one more request, but unfortunately we won't be able to answer it. James really needs to run.
I can take one more.
Okay, awesome. All right, let's do Christopher. If anyone joined late, we're gonna have this in a recorded format as well. Go to your podcasting app of choice and look for Working Crypto, and we try to put this out a few days after the Twitter Space is over. All right, Christopher, you're up.
Okay. Well, I was able to get on the call pretty early. Took a bunch of notes. I've actually been using Notion, and it's been a great resource. But I think just for me, it's been an interesting beginning to getting into the crypto space. Twitter Spaces, I've been on all the recent calls lately. Not necessarily calls, but although my hands are sweating, it's pretty exciting to just be listening and learning in the space. I have a little bit of developer experience with Python and doing some automation. Currently learning some Solidity. Took all the notes about like how to break into the space, and I guess the question is, what? Well, thank you for your time. I think it's just really exciting to just be in the space now. I know I have to go, but what are the next best steps, like as far as getting involved with learning from you guys?
Yeah, I mean, I really think, I mean, obviously, like the Twitter Spaces thing, as you know, we previously said, is important, but I think it's just like it's so much in this industry is open to you, that isn't the case in like any other industry, right? If you want to go into law, into finance, you can't just hang out with a bunch of people in investment banking, right? Whereas you can do that in crypto, right? So it's try and see if there are meetups in the town that you're from, you know, like be involved in as many communities as you possibly can, on Discord, on Telegram. You'd be surprised. Like it always sounds, you know, like yeah, I guess, but it really, really is the case that the more time that you spend in these communities, like it becomes a matter of time as to when you can get involved in something yourself. You know, like whether it's, you know, you just helping out, and so the protocol itself like asks you to come on board in some way, or one of the people in the space that you've met has decided that they want to set up a project themselves, and they're looking for like 4 people, and you know you've made friends with them, and you can get involved. Like it really, like getting just involved in the community is the key thing. It's 100% the key thing, and like you can go from 0 to 100 in the space of 6 months, which just isn't the case with any other industry. So just stay present, stay involved, especially if there is a market downturn. Like it will be recognized by community members, by the project, if like the token price is stagnating, for example, but there's a guy who keeps on helping, who keeps on getting involved in conversations, like you will stand out. So yeah, just stay present, stay involved.
Thank you. Happy Thanksgiving.
Yeah, happy Thanksgiving, guys.
Awesome. Thanks for the question, Christopher. Yeah, also, like again, from a developer standpoint of view, do reach out to and like go check out Twitter. Sorry, what I was saying, GitHub accounts of all the projects that you're interested in. Pretty much every single project out there has something that is public on GitHub. If they don't, be wary of that project. But I think it's a fantastic way to learn, to kind of upskill yourself, and to kind of engage with the devs and find an engineering position eventually in the space. All right. How are we doing on time, James?
Yeah, I'm gonna have to go because I've got a call literally in 20 seconds.
Awesome. All right. Thank you so much once again. I think I'm just going to be ending the space. Thank you, everyone, for joining today, asking questions. You guys have been amazing. Looking forward to the similar call next week. Yeah, just watch out our Twitter. Make sure to follow, and we will be announcing our next space shortly. Thank you so much, everyone. Happy Thanksgiving.
Thanks, guys, for the questions. Appreciate it.
Right. Go to Alpaca Finance, apply to their positions.
Exactly.